Hello, friends. When we talk about the heroes of World War II, we often think of brave soldiers, generals, and world leaders. But there's one chapter that history almost forgot. A chapter filled with courage, sacrifice, and silence. A chapter about women, who wore the uniform, faced the battlefield, and served their countries with pride. Yet when they came home, the same society they protected turned its back on them. They were told, "Take off that uniform, go home, get married." And what's worse, many people, even men who admired them during the war, didn't want to marry them afterward. Why? Today, we'll uncover the hidden truth of female soldiers after World War II, the heroes who fought for freedom and then fought against society's rejection. Between 1939 and 1945, the world was engulfed in war, and for the first time in history, women were called to the front lines, not just the home front. In the United States, over 400,000 women served in the military. In Britain, around 640,000 women joined the services. And in the Soviet Union, a staggering 800,000 women took part directly in combat. They became mechanics, radio operators, nurses, truck drivers, and even snipers and pilots. One Soviet pilot, Marina Ruskova, led an entire regiment of female bomber pilots known as the Night Witches. They terrified German soldiers so much that even hearing their planes at night sent shivers down the trenches. But even as they risked their lives, society had one question for them. Why would a woman do this? Take Lyudmila Pavlichenko, one of the deadliest snipers in history. 309 confirmed kills. Or the WASP, the Women Air Force Service Pilots, who flew planes across the U.S. to deliver them to combat bases. In Britain, members of the ATS and WAAF managed anti-aircraft guns and radar systems. These women weren't fighting for fame or equality. They were fighting for survival, for their country, and for their sense of duty. But when the war ended and the guns went silent, something unexpected happened. Their own countries forgot them. After 1945, the world celebrated peace. Soldiers came home, cities were rebuilt, and life was supposed to go back to normal. But for women soldiers, normal was gone forever. They had seen death, led teams, and lived with independence. They weren't the same women who left home. Yet society told them, now it's time to settle down, find a husband, and forget the war. Men returning from the front lines often felt insecure around these women. Many thought, how can I control or lead a woman who's stronger, braver, and more disciplined than me? And so, many female veterans found themselves alone. As one American nurse wrote, "We fought for our country, but no one wanted to marry us after." Another ugly truth was the rumors. People whispered that women in the army were unfeminine or immoral. They said, a decent woman doesn't live among men in the barracks. These false stereotypes destroyed reputations. Even nurses, who saved lives, were accused of being too close to male soldiers. Female veterans were often denied marriage proposals, job opportunities, and even respect. They had won the war, but lost the peace. War changes everyone, and women were no exception. Many came back with trauma, nightmares, and survivor's guilt. But unlike men, they weren't seen as veterans. There were no therapy programs, no medals, no support systems. When they spoke about their experiences, people said, "You're a woman, forget it, move on." But how could they? They had lived through the worst horrors imaginable. One Soviet veteran said, "The bullets stopped, but the silence at home was even louder." Decades later, the world began to recognize its mistake. In the 1970s, the U.S. finally granted military status to the WASP pilots, over 30 years late. Britain, Russia, and other countries began to document and honor their female war heroes. Memorials were built, documentaries made, and medals awarded to women who had been ignored for half a century. But for many, it came too late. Most had already passed away, never hearing the words, "Thank you for your service." These women were not weak, and they were not forgotten. They proved something the world still struggles to accept, that courage has no gender. They fought 2 wars, one on the battlefield and one against the chains of society. They didn't need a man to validate their strength. History already salutes them. So next time you hear the word soldier, remember, behind every great victory, there were women who were never allowed to celebrate theirs.
Look at them.
Honestly, it's not right for a woman.
They say they're coming straight from the front.